In the glittering constellation of Hollywood stars, few shine as brightly as Leonardo DiCaprio. From teenage heartthrob to Oscar-winning actor, environmental activist to cultural icon, his career has spanned over 3 decades of evolution and reinvention. But behind the cameras and accolades lies another story, one that has captivated tabloids, spawned countless memes, and become perhaps the most reliable pattern in celebrity culture: the Leonardo DiCaprio dating rule. A man who could have anyone, yet chooses a very specific type. A man who has never married, never settled down, and, if you believe the statistics, never dated a woman over 25. Is it mere coincidence, a bizarre statistical anomaly, or does it reveal something deeper about one of Hollywood's most enigmatic bachelors? Tonight, we explore the real story behind Leonardo DiCaprio's notorious dating history, the women who captured his heart, the relationships that defined him, and the mysterious pattern that has followed him for nearly 30 years. Our story begins in 1994. A 19-year-old Leonardo DiCaprio had just delivered his Oscar-nominated performance in What's Eating Gilbert Grape. His piercing blue eyes and boyish charm had already made him a rising star, but the tsunami of fame that would transform him into a global heartthrob was still on the horizon. It was in this year that the first chapter of Leo's romantic history would be written, with a young model named Bridget Hall. Hall was 17, a fresh face in the modeling world with porcelain features and honey blonde hair. Their romance was brief but significant, the first glimpse of what would become DiCaprio's type. But did you know that Bridget once described their relationship as a complete disaster? What went wrong between these two beautiful young stars, and why did this relationship set a template that would follow DiCaprio for decades to come? By 1996, DiCaprio was no longer just a promising talent. He was a bona fide star. Romeo plus Juliet had cemented his status as a romantic lead, and unbeknownst to the world, the film that would make him a global phenomenon was just around the corner. During this pivotal time, Leo found himself in his first serious relationship with actress and model Kristen Zhang. For 15 months, Zhang was the woman on DiCaprio's arm. Blonde, beautiful, and age-appropriate, she seemed like the perfect match for the rising star. Their relationship coincided with a critical juncture in Leo's career, as he was filming the movie that would change everything, Titanic. But just as his career was about to explode into the stratosphere, the relationship hit troubled waters. In 1998, as Titanic broke box office records and turned DiCaprio into the most famous man on the planet, Kristen Zhang made a decision that would shock Hollywood insiders. She broke up with Leonardo DiCaprio, not the other way around. "It was a choice I made," Zhang revealed years later. "Leo was immature, and he had a posse of young model-chasing buddies. I just didn't want that life." But what's truly fascinating is what Zhang said next, something that adds a startling twist to the narrative we thought we knew. She called DiCaprio the love of my life. The turn of the millennium marked a seismic shift in Leonardo DiCaprio's life. At 25, he was no longer just a movie star. He had become a global phenomenon, a cultural icon whose face adorned bedroom walls from Tokyo to Toronto. The Titanic effect had transformed DiCaprio's existence, surrounding him with unprecedented fame, wealth, and something else: unlimited access to the most beautiful women in the world. It was in this intoxicating new reality that Leonardo met the woman who would become his longest and most public relationship to date, a young Brazilian model named Gisele Bündchen. When they met in 2000, Bündchen was barely 19 years old, but already turning heads in the fashion world with her distinctive look and confident runway presence. DiCaprio, at 25, was at the peak of his heartthrob status. What followed was a 5-year relationship that defined both their public images during the early 2000s. But behind the glamorous photos and red carpet appearances lay complexities that few understood at the time. Gisele wasn't just another model in Leo's life, she was special. So special, in fact, that she remains to this day the only girlfriend Leonardo DiCaprio has ever brought to the Academy Awards. The 2005 Oscars marked a significant moment in DiCaprio's personal and professional life. Nominated for The Aviator, with Gisele by his side, it seemed he might be ready to settle down with his Brazilian beauty. But something was changing within Bündchen, something that would ultimately drive them apart and reveal the first instance of what would later become known as the Leo pattern. In late 2005, after more than 5 years together, Gisele and Leonardo split. The timing, just months after Gisele's 25th birthday. At the time, the breakup was attributed to conflicting schedules and the challenges of dual celebrity careers. But years later, Gisele would reveal the real reason. And it had nothing to do with their busy lives. I was becoming more and more aware of environmental issues, health issues, wanting to change my habits, Gisele explained in a 2019 interview. I was no longer numbing myself with smoking, drinking, and too much work. I was becoming more conscious about the deeper things in life. The supermodel continued with a revelation that casts the entire relationship in a new light. Leo is a wonderful person, but unfortunately, he wasn't ready to change with me. While I was undergoing this journey of spiritual awakening and getting healthier, he stayed the same. And eventually, that's what tore us apart. As Gisele moved on to eventually marry NFL quarterback Tom Brady and build a family, DiCaprio's journey took a very different turn. Within weeks of his breakup with Bündchen, the actor was spotted with another blonde model. This time, a 20-year-old Israeli beauty named Bar Refaeli. If the pattern wasn't obvious yet, it soon would be. Leonardo and Bar's relationship became one of Hollywood's most enduring romances. For nearly 6 years, they were fixtures at basketball games, secluded beaches, and exclusive parties around the globe. Unlike many celebrity couples, DiCaprio and Refaeli managed to maintain relative privacy. They rarely spoke about each other in interviews, avoided red carpets together, and seemed to exist in a protected bubble of their own making. But as the years passed, rumors began to circulate that Leo's mother, Irmelien Indenbergen, was pushing for something more permanent. Irmelien, who had raised Leonardo as a single mother and remained his closest confidant, reportedly adored Bar and hoped she would be the one to finally make her son settle down. Inside sources claimed engagement rings were discussed. Friends hinted at possible proposals. The world wondered, would Bar Refaeli be the woman to finally change Leonardo DiCaprio's bachelor status? In May 2011, the answer came with a stunning announcement. Leonardo DiCaprio and Bar Refaeli had broken up after 6 years together. The timing? Bar was just weeks away from her 25th birthday. Coincidence? Perhaps. But as DiCaprio's romantic history continued to unfold, this strange age threshold would appear again and again, eventually becoming impossible to ignore. The years following his split from Bar Refaeli marked a period of romantic exploration for DiCaprio. A carousel of beautiful young women came and went from his life. Some for months, others for merely weeks. In mid-2011, he briefly dated Gossip Girl star Blake Lively. Their whirlwind romance took them from the Cannes Film Festival to romantic getaways in Italy and Australia. But by fall, the relationship had fizzled, with Lively still several years away from her 25th birthday. Next came Victoria's Secret model Erin Heatherton. Their 10-month relationship seemed promising, with Heatherton even spending time with Leo's mother. But in October 2012, they parted ways, with Erin at the age of 23. German model Toni Garin entered the picture in May 2013, beginning a relationship that would last 18 months, one of Leo's longer involvements during this period. But once again, the pattern held. They split in December 2014, when Toni was just 22. Sports Illustrated model Kelly Rohrbach became DiCaprio's next girlfriend in spring 2015. Rumors of engagement swirled, but by January 2016, the relationship was over. Kelly's age when they broke up? 25. Danish model Nina Agdal was next, beginning a relationship with DiCaprio in 2016 that lasted about a year. When they split in May 2017, Agdal was just 2 months past her 25th birthday. The closest any girlfriend had come to breaking what was now an unmistakable pattern. By this point, the pattern had become a cultural phenomenon. In 2019, a Reddit user created a graph tracking DiCaprio's age against his girlfriend's ages over time. The visual was striking. As Leo aged from his 20s to his 40s, his partners remained perpetually between 20 and 25. The internet dubbed it the Leo Law, an apparently unbreakable rule that once a woman reached her mid-20s, her time with DiCaprio was up. The pattern became fodder for comedians and awards show hosts. At the 2020 Golden Globes, Ricky Gervais delivered perhaps the most biting joke about DiCaprio's preferences. Leonardo DiCaprio attended the premiere of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. By the end of the screening, his date was too old for him. But beyond the jokes and memes lay deeper questions. What was driving this pattern? Was it mere coincidence, conscious choice, or something more complex in DiCaprio's psychology? To understand the man behind the pattern, we must look beyond the relationships themselves to the world Leonardo DiCaprio has built around himself, a world of unimaginable privilege, constant attention, and carefully curated experiences. This is where Leonardo DiCaprio calls home. A sprawling compound in the Hollywood Hills that began with a property purchased from Madonna and expanded over the years to include more than 15 rooms and multiple structures. In 2022, he added an adjacent property for $10.5 million, further enlarging his private sanctuary. But this is just one of many residences. DiCaprio owns properties in Palm Springs, New York City, and Malibu, creating a portfolio worth tens of millions of dollars. These aren't just investments, they're carefully designed escapes from the relentless attention that has followed him since Titanic. His taste in automobiles reflects both luxury and his environmental consciousness. A Tesla Model S, a $175,000 Fisker Karma Hybrid, and a $215,000 Range Rover SV Autobiography sit alongside multiple Toyota Priuses in his collection. And then there are the infamous yacht vacations. Perhaps the most visible manifestation of DiCaprio's bachelor lifestyle. Each summer, paparazzi capture images of the actor aboard vessels like the $150 million Vavat or the rented Trinity yacht that costs $600,000 per week. These floating palaces have become the backdrop for countless photos of DiCaprio surrounded by beautiful young models, images that have cemented his public image as Hollywood's eternal bachelor. But there's another constant presence in these photos, one that provides crucial insight into DiCaprio's personal world, his friends. They were once infamously known as the Pussy Posse, a group of young actors and friends who surrounded DiCaprio during his post-Titanic ascendance. While the crude nickname has faded, many of these same friends remain DiCaprio's inner circle decades later. Most significant among them is actor Tobey Maguire, whom DiCaprio has known since they were 12 years old, auditioning for the same roles. Their friendship has endured fame, marriages, divorces, and the passage of time, providing DiCaprio with a rare constant in his ever-changing world. I've known Tobey for almost 30 years now. When you've known someone that long in this industry, someone who's seen all the ups and downs, who knew you before you were anybody, that's invaluable. It keeps you grounded. According to those close to DiCaprio, this tight-knit group of friends has created a protective bubble around the actor, one that has allowed him to maintain his carefree lifestyle well into middle age. A source close to DiCaprio told Us Weekly in 2024, Leo's inner circle has accepted that he will never fully settle down and get married. It's just part of who he is. Another insider explained to In Touch, Leo's friends and family gave up trying to influence him years ago. This commitment-free lifestyle is part of who he is. But what about marriage and family? Has Leonardo DiCaprio truly never wanted to settle down, or have his views evolved over time? The answer is more complicated than it might seem. In his 20s and early 30s, DiCaprio was dismissive of marriage. "I don't believe in marriage," he stated plainly in interviews. "I've never been in love," he claimed on other occasions. But in 2008, at age 33, something seemed to shift. In an interview with Parade magazine, DiCaprio made a startling admission. "I want to get married and have children. In saying that, I realize I'm contradicting everything I've said before. I absolutely believe in marriage." This apparent change of heart led many to believe that DiCaprio was finally maturing, ready to leave behind his playboy ways and embrace a more conventional life path. But as the years passed and relationships continued to follow the same pattern, these words began to seem hollow. By 2016, when asked again about marriage in an interview, his response had become more non-committal. "That time will come when that time comes. The truth is, you can't predict marriage. You can't plan it. It's just going to happen when it happens." Which brings us to the present day and the relationship that may finally be breaking the Leo pattern. In August 2023, Leonardo DiCaprio was spotted with Italian model Vittoria Ceretti. Initial reports suggested another brief fling, the latest in a long line of beautiful young women in the actor's life. But something was different about this relationship. For one thing, it lasted. Months passed, and DiCaprio and Ceretti remained together, spotted at nightclubs in Miami, art galleries in Paris, and family dinners in Los Angeles. And then came the milestone that broke the pattern. In June 2024, Vittoria Ceretti turned 26, and the relationship continued. After nearly 30 years of seemingly never dating a woman over 25, Leonardo DiCaprio was defying his own rule. But that wasn't the only tradition being broken. In May 2025, DiCaprio attended the Met Gala for the first time in his life, with Ceretti by his side. Though he skipped the red carpet, maintaining his longtime aversion to such public displays, his presence at fashion's biggest nights signaled something significant about this relationship. Ceretti herself has remained mostly silent about the relationship, but in a rare comment to Vogue France, she offered a glimpse into their connection. When what you have is real, when you know you love each other, there's no need to sound the alarm, because love protects and gives confidence. At 50 years old, has Leonardo DiCaprio finally found a relationship that will break not just the age pattern, but his lifelong resistance to commitment? Relationship experts who have studied DiCaprio's dating history offer varying perspectives on why he has maintained such a consistent pattern for so long, and whether Ceretti might represent genuine change. For someone like DiCaprio, dating younger women provides a certain simplicity. A younger person offers a sense of purity that comes with less baggage. They haven't been broken, abandoned, or betrayed. They come with much more excitement. Others point to the unique pressures of DiCaprio's life, the constant scrutiny, the psychological impact of extreme fame at a young age, and the artificial world created by wealth and celebrity. When someone achieves the level of fame DiCaprio did at such a young age, it can essentially freeze certain aspects of emotional development. The world becomes so unreal, so accommodating to your every whim, that the normal challenges that force maturity never materialize. This perspective offers a more compassionate view of DiCaprio's dating pattern, not as the calculated behavior of a committed bachelor, but as the symptom of a life unlike anything most people could imagine. As we look back at Leonardo DiCaprio's romantic history, from Bridget Hall to Vittoria Ceretti, from his 19-year-old self to the 50-year-old man he is today, what emerges is not simply a Playboy narrative, but the story of a man navigating extraordinary circumstances. His relationships reveal patterns, yes, the consistent preference for models, the apparent age threshold, the resistance to marriage, but they also reveal evolution, from the wild party days of the Pussy Posse to the more private, environmentally conscious figure of today. Perhaps the most revealing insight comes from DiCaprio himself. In a rare moment of introspection during a 2016 interview, "My career has been so demanding that it's taken precedence over everything. I've invested so much in that. I still feel like I'm constantly in the beginning of my career. I'm just trying to find good films to make, you know? And that takes precedence over everything." In the end, Leonardo DiCaprio remains one of Hollywood's most fascinating enigmas, a man whose professional evolution from heartthrob to serious actor has been documented in exquisite detail, while his personal life continues to generate more questions than answers. Whether his current relationship represents a true breaking of the pattern or simply an exception that proves the rule, one thing remains certain: few figures in modern celebrity culture have maintained such a consistent, mysterious, and endlessly discussed romantic life. For a man who has spent his career portraying complex characters on screen, Leonardo DiCaprio's most intriguing role may be the one he plays in real life. Hollywood's eternal bachelor, forever young at heart, and perhaps, finally, ready to break his own rules. But there's one question we haven't answered, the question that perhaps matters most. What do the women themselves really think of their time with Leonardo DiCaprio? The surprising answers from those who knew him best when our investigation continues.